Hi, my tubies. It's Sheila True Love. As you see, I'm kind of on a serious note here today. I am not feeling all that great. I am using the little energy that I do have to make this video. I was very depressed this morning when I woke up, going through situations with my family, whatever, with this organization. I don't think I have to go into detail with you because you pretty much understand what I'm doing right now. This is going to be part 3 of a closer look at Jehovah's Witnesses and inside their world. This is part 3. And this is a compilation of what helped me to wake up. Listening to these different people and their testimonies and doing my own research is what helped me to wake up. And the purpose of me doing these things is so that I can help other people, and so that people, it may be too late for my family, but it's not too late for other people's family. Because as far as I'm concerned, for my family to have turned their back on me for some man-made organization or some cult, no. Trusting them ever again, that's never going to happen, ever. Again, ever. I would never toss my family to the side for some nonsense, foolishness, giving you ultimatums and all this other crazy nonsense. And I remember going into counseling with my son, and I was explaining things to the counselor, and the counselor seemed to be very understanding where I was concerned. Okay? And then Lewis, something came up, and it was like he wanted to go, we could go and talk to the elders. He suggested, yeah, well, maybe we could go and talk to the elders. I was like, no, we could go and talk to my pastor, and we could go and talk to the minister or a deacon. You had to see my son, how he just like fell back. And then he had to explain to the counselor, well, because somebody's sending me, wow, they like the videos. Okay, thank you. He fell back and explained to the counselor, well, Jehovah's Witnesses, that's how I was raised. Actually, you were raised to follow and worship Jehovah and follow Jesus Christ. That's how you were raised. When it comes to this governing body and all of this information that's out here, and you see that what they're teaching is a lie, you have to use common sense here. Remember what your mama taught you, like Proverbs says. Remember what your parents instilled in you. Now, you see this organization because it's everywhere. Facebook, Tinder. I'm not going to say Tinder. I'm not Tinder because that's a dating thing. Sorry, excuse me on that one. It's everywhere. News, newspapers. Do your research. Okay? Now, what I'm doing is, like I said, a compilation of different people. At the same time, I found that their doctrines was very harmful. And I have a list of the reasons why I had to fall back from this organization. Now, one is the unscriptural protection of child molesters. They protect them through their so-called two-witness rule. Okay? The unscriptural shunning of individuals who peacefully choose another way of worship. They're still Christians. The unscriptural belief that only this organization has God's favor. And I think we all know that that's a lie, especially after they admitted they're not inspired. That really did it for me. Really. That was a big wake-up call. The continuous stream of unscriptural rules that goes beyond what is written in the Bible, and the unscriptural control that they have over people's lives. Now, keep in mind, I'm using the word unscriptural. The praise heaped upon women who stay with abusers and they groom their children to enter into abusive relationships as adults. How many stories, which I'm going to let you hear the wives who have woken up and who've left, how they were Jehovah's Witness wives, and they was putting up with so much abuse. And when these wives went to the elders to report about their husbands, how the elders sided usually with the husband, telling her that maybe she's not submissive enough. How is your film ministry? Are you going out in the ministry? Are you reading your Bible more? Meanwhile, they're teaching her to put up with all this abuse. So all these women that you see supposedly happily, no, honey, they're not happily married, because these other witnesses, they spilled the beans. It's all a facade. They're wearing masks. But anyway, The organization, this also is what helped wake me up. They're investing in the military, the tobacco companies, networks that promote witchcraft, spiritism, magic, soft porn. These are the very things that they will shun or disfellowship people for, and yet this is what they partake in. I got the invoices to prove it. Just ask me for the proof. Ask me for it, and I will produce it for you. They destroy people's families, yet they have so many shares and stock in these type of companies. Again, like I said, I've seen the invoices. This organization has so much blood on their hands, more than any other cult. When you think about how many people have committed suicide because of losing their loved ones with their shunning policy, and there are no blood fractions or there are no organ transplants. They're constant flip-flopping back and forth with their teachings, not concerned about how many people they are killing. They don't care. Also, those who would not participate in the alternative military service, now they had an option. 1 minute you can't do it, next minute you can. Do you know how many people was in prison for life? Do you know how many people have felonies on their records because of that? They had a fear of being disfellowshipped and losing their loved ones. So many of those people were in prison for years. And like I said, they have felonies on their records in which the organization now say, guess what? Now, if you want to do the alternative military services, that's up to your conscience. Hello? The constant false prophecies. The Bible clearly shows that is the identifying mark of false prophets. That's it. That's the identifying mark, baby. Right there. Bam. It don't get no clearer. Why wasn't I able to see that also? I don't know. They didn't have all the information out there at the time that I was like new. I came in since I was 7. And I've been in this organization for decades. Almost all my life. All my life. Okay? Jehovah tells us to look into things. This is another thing that I had to fall back and back up from this organization, because Jehovah tells us to look into things and keep testing things to make sure that they are in harmony with Christ's teachings. What does the governing body tell you to do? What does the organization tell you to do? They tell you not to look into things. Don't do research. So what do I have to do when I'm hearing this? First thing I have to do is I had to get my Bible. I had to see, what did Jehovah instruct me to do through Jesus Christ? What did he tell me to do? So I looked up 1 John chapter 4, verse 1. I looked up 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 20 through 21. Ezekiel chapter 13, 8 through 9. Jeremiah 23:16. Acts chapter 17, verse 11. Matthew's 24:24. Acts chapter 20, verse 28 through 30. And Matthew chapter 7, verse 15 through 20, just to name a few of the scriptures that I chose to adhere to. I chose to listen to what Jesus told me instead of what governing body told me, or elders told me, or overseers told me. Are you kidding me? And there's many more unscriptural doctrines that they are teaching people. Unscriptural. So again, like I said, these are reasons why I had to say, you know what, this is definitely not Jehovah's organization. And for anyone who wants to present their case to me, I'm open. Let me know, invite me over. You have your evidence to prove that it's God's organization, and I will have mine to prove that it's not. And when I suggested this to my son and my daughter and my family, you know what they did? They ran and hid. You know, like roaches. You know, you turn the light on. What do roaches do once you turn on the light? They run and they hide. They run and scatter, and try to find a hole, a dark hole to hide in. That's what they did. They ran like roaches. Anyway, we are going to listen to For the Trapped. That's her name. And she's explaining why she left Jehovah's Witnesses.
So this is my first video. First and foremost, I do want to say that this video is in no way intended to bash Jehovah's Witnesses. It's not to try to wake anyone up. The whole purpose of this video is basically just to be of support to those who have left. And this video is just telling my story, where I came from, why I left.
I like the way she expressed that. This is not to bash Jehovah's Witnesses. I'm not trying to bash them. I'm not trying to hurt anyone. I'm trying to help be supportive to those who have left and who feel that they're all alone, or for those who are trying to get out and feel that they're not going to have any support. And for those who, once you come out, I'm going to tell you, it's a depressed thing, especially if you lose your family. Now, you can let go of them people in the organization, no love lost, who cares? But to lose your family, that's tragic. And anytime you have a family, this is what I don't understand. They claim that they love you, right? Mm-hmm. But anytime you know that your mom or your parents were devout witnesses, they have been in this for all their life. Been out in the ministry. I've done my pioneering. I've done the talks. I've been out doing whatever I had to do. And for me to after all these years, for me to leave this organization. Now, keep in mind, this is especially your mother or your dad. Before you say, I got to let my parents go, my comments would have said to me, hold up. For my mom or my father to want to leave this organization, there's got to be something huge to make them want to do that. So before I give up my parents, I'm going to do some research to check this out. Because for my parents to do something this drastic, it has to be something to it. But anytime you have family members that don't even want to do the research, don't want to sit down with you, don't want to hear you out, don't want to listen, they never loved you in the first place. Trust me, Tubies. And I know that's a bitter pill to swallow, but it's true. They never loved you. They may have needed you, but when they feel that they are on their own and they realize, and I want to put the word focus on the word they realize. They finally woke up. I realize I'm doing this for myself. I don't need her. I don't need him. They'll throw you away like nothing because they never loved you. I would never, I don't care if my mother, whatever. My mother, I was disfellowship before. My mother never stopped talking to me. My mother would never throw her daughter away. We did everything except eat together. And the only reason why she wouldn't eat with me because at the time I was smoking cigarettes when I was disfellowshipped. Well, we watched TV together, her Matlock, her Barnaby Jones, she used to like all of those shows, Saint Elsewhere, whatever, and we used to talk together. We was always on the phone together. Now, keep in mind, I was disfellowshipped. What they call disfellowship. Well, you baptized? I was never baptized, neither are you. Because if you were not baptized in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, you're not baptized either. And I suggest you find a non-denomination and go get baptized. Because you're really not baptized. But sticking to the point, before you're going to throw away your parents, you got to be crazy. Anyway, let's get back to this lovely young lady here. Like she says, nobody's trying to bash anybody or trying to destroy anyone.
But the whole purpose of this channel is to not go over any doctrinal issues or how horrible the organization is. The whole purpose is basically just to be of support to those who have already left, who are going through the pain of having to be alone and have to go through being shunned, who have suffered through, abuse. So I really want to be of support to you guys. Thanks for tuning in. All right, let's get to it.
Start growing up in it. You see her at the meeting, mingling with the people.
So, as far as my story, I was born and raised one of Jehovah's Witnesses. I decided to leave 2 years ago. That's when I started doing research. As far as what led up to that, a lot of things. Basically, I started to feel like there was no love in that organization for quite some time. Um, actually, one.
I think you've noticed that she said she started to do her research. That's when a lot of people start to decide to leave this organization. And that's the main reason why they don't want you doing research. Don't you dare. And if you do, you better not let them know about it. Okay? Because remember, you are not a God fearing person. No, you're not. You're governing body fearing. You have a fear of elders and overseers and people in the congregation. You're not God fearing. You have no respectful fear for Jesus Christ either. No, you don't. Because if you did, you wouldn't be a part of this organization any longer. You wouldn't.
I left my home congregation after I got married. I got married and moved on to a new congregation, and things just changed. I started to see little things that were different from where I was, where everybody knew me. I was pioneering, and situation came up where basically I had to stop pioneering. I needed to work. So once I stopped doing that, it was like everything changed. Thus, I started to see the love that wasn't in that organization. So, starting from the beginning, I was really dedicated to that organization. Right out of high school, I decided to pioneer. So instead of taking my scholarship that I was given, I decided to pioneer right out of high school. That's one of the things that I really do regret. Because I gave it up for nothing, but it is what it is. I felt like people needed to know the truth. So it was a no-brainer for me to give that up. So after high school, I did pioneer for about 3 years. And then I got married within the midst of that. I got married pretty young, which most witnesses do. Once we got married and moved to another congregation, that's when I started seeing changes. I started seeing how somewhere. I started seeing how there was little love in that organization. There were so many things that I was seeing. Once I stopped pioneering, I started to see how different people started treating me, and that's when I started to see that okay, there's something not right as far as the love. But I just figured maybe it was just that congregation. I moved to Florida, and I see more of a lack of love. I went there not knowing anybody, and it was extremely hard because I wasn't pioneering, because I wasn't, going out as much as I could. I was really depressed. There wasn't a lot of people or friends that would come up to me or say anything to me. So I was quite alone, and I really started to question as far as just the lack of love. And I felt like an organization that's solely defined by love, and for the fact that they show absolutely none, I started to wonder whether or not this was actually an organization backed by God. So, in the back of my mind, that's been on my mind for quite some time, at least 5 years since I've been thinking that. So yeah, that is when it actually started, when the wheels actually started to turn. That wait a minute, something is not right with this organization because it doesn't show any type of love. And the thing.
And that's one of the main things, like when the apostles talked to Jesus Christ and they said, what is the greatest command out of all the commands? And what did Jesus Christ tell them? Not the governing body, not no elders or what was it. What did Jesus Christ tell them? The greatest command, one, is to love God with your whole heart, soul, mind, strength, and body. Number two is to love each other. And even though there may be other religious organizations that may be wrong, have some false teachings, but Jehovah's Witnesses don't even go there because I will show you a pamphlet of this, of all your false teachings. You don't even want me to take you there. Trust me, you don't. But anyway, at least the other organizations, like when you think about the Catholic Church, Protestants, Baptists, they're doing things for the world. Like you have the Catholic charities, you have them helping with homelessness, you have them helping when it comes to feeding people, people who are struggling with addictions. They have support groups, they have fellowship meetings, they have all of this to try to help people, to try to show people love. What does Jehovah's Witnesses have? They have nothing but recruit, 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 knock at doors, knock at doors, knock at doors, so they could get more donations, um, and so that they could get more followers, so that more people could come and bow down to the tower, to the 8 dudes sitting up in the tower. You know, when it comes to love, did I feel love in the congregations that I was at? No, not really. No, not really. No, because they were too fake and too phony, and everyone was afraid, except for there was a few who, when they had overdrinked, and then they would spill their guts about the truth of how they really felt. And majority of the gatherings that we had when my brother was here and all of them, everything was with alcohol. You hear me? Everything was about alcohol, alcohol. There was not a gathering or an event where alcohol was not involved. Because I had stopped drinking for 7.5 years. I had stopped drinking. When my brother came over to me, he could verify for me. It was like 3 years, 4 years, 2, 3 years he saw I wasn't drinking. Previous to him coming to me, I had stopped drinking 5 years ago. Now, hanging out with these witnesses, when my brother had them coming over, or I would have them coming over for gatherings, they would come, but they'd hardly invite me anywhere. They would come every time I invite them for dinner, though, and they would come with bowls so they could fill up stuff to take back with them. How tacky is that? But anyway, they was drinking and drinking, and I still wasn't drinking. But then I was talking to someone my brother was studying with, and he said, well, it's not nothing wrong with drinking and blah, blah, blah. It's just a matter of moderation and blah, blah, blah. And then I would say, he got a good point. So then I started drinking again. And that's how I did it. Sometimes I overdid it. Most times, trust me when I tell you, most times I didn't. I never overdid it when I was with them. Trust me when I tell you. Most of the times that I will overdo it with drinking is if I'm at home. Like if I'm socializing at home and I'm doing FaceTime, you know how you do the video chat and I'm hanging out with people, they're drinking on their side, I'm drinking. And that's how it goes, socializing. I don't drink every day. I've never been an everyday drinker. I drink maybe once or twice a month, if that, Tubies. Trust me when I tell you. Once or twice a month. But anyway, let's get back to this beautiful young lady.
That tipped it off for me. Some people have seen me in an interview. I actually did an interview with True Face. So
yeah, I saw that.
If you've seen that interview, you kind of know this story.
That was
basically what tipped it off for me is when my grandmother died. And what happened was when I found out that my grandmother had passed, I contacted the brother at my congregation at that time, and I let him know that my grandmother passed. The very first thing that he asked me was she a witness? And that kind of set me back a little bit, and I'm like, no. And then he said absolutely nothing after that. When I went to the hall, nobody said anything. Nobody said, oh, I'm sorry. Nobody. When I went to work, I had a card. I had all type of things, giving their condolences. But when I went to the Kingdom Hall, there was absolutely nothing. And that was a spark that started it all. And then my brother came down from New Hampshire, and he is disfellowshipped. So he comes down for the funeral for my grandmother, who is not a witness, was not a witness, did not want to be a witness. So he came down for the funeral, and he was allowed to come to the funeral. Of course, it wasn't in the Kingdom Hall. But, however, afterwards, my other brother, who is the only one in my family who was a witness, was having the after hour at his house. And so my disfellowship brother was not allowed to go. And I did not understand that. My grandmother wasn't a witness. She did not have any affiliates that were witnesses, but because of the fact that there were witnesses at my brother's house, my disfellowship.
Okay, so I don't want to make this too long. So we get the gist of that. I'm just going to fast forward it a bit, and you can check out the whole story because it's the name of it is um, Why I Left Jehovah's Witnesses. Is it a cult? And this is by For the Trapped. I like that. I like that. That's For the Trapped. Anyway.
I do want to go over this in this video is because many people don't realize how this organization is a cult.
It is a cult.
For those who have not been in it, they just feel like Jehovah's Witnesses are nice people that go knocking on your door, maybe waking you up in the morning. But there are aspects to it that make it definitely a cult. A really, really great book that I read was Stephen Nelson, Combating Cult Mind Control. I'll put a link to where you can buy this book because you definitely want to. It's such a great book. It actually goes into detail as far as what a cult is. Yes, it does name Jehovah's Witnesses, which is great.
Wow, they have them in the book. They have them on A&E as a cult. They have it with this woman. I forget her name offhand. And yeah, it's a cult. I mean, let's keep it simple. What is a cult? Anytime you decide to leave a certain organization to go elsewhere and you're going to be punished for it, that's a cult. Anytime an organization can convince you to allow your children to die and your family members to die, and they can convince you to do this, that's a cult. Jimmy Jones, drink the Kool-Aid. How many? Over 900 people dead. Okay, how many Jehovah's Witnesses are dead because of their no organs, cannibalism, and blood policies, and all of this other crazy nonsense that they have misinterpreted? You want to talk about the blood stuff? Bring it. I'll clear that up real quick too. I'll break. But the Bible says this. Yeah, let's read the whole chapter, though, sweetheart. Let's look at also the situation that was going on when the Bible said this. Okay? So now we got these two factors that's a cult. Anytime you have an organization that don't want you to look into anything, that's a cult. Anytime you have an organization that they want you to come to their church, but they're not coming to yours. They want you to read all of their literature. Not only is that a cult that's narcissistic, it's selfish. They want you to listen to everything that they have to say, but they're not willing to listen to you. Don't you dare disagree with them. That's where my son and my daughter get that from. They don't know it subconsciously, but subconsciously that's where they get it from. They don't even know it. You can't disagree with them. You can't have your own ideas, your own viewpoints. Or they're ready to say bye-bye. Narcissistic.
And it really goes into ways that you can help family members as well, and then ways that you could cope coming out of it. What classifies a cult is what happens when a person tries to leave.
Thank you.
In Jehovah's Witnesses, when a person decides to leave, there are three ways that a person tries to leave. One is if you just leave, you can fade out, which is what I did, but as far as now I'm being classified as an apostate, so there's that. You are disfellowship for some type of wrongdoing that you've done, and the wrongdoing in their eyes that you've done, or you disassociate yourself publicly out of the religion. Now, with those things, either way, if you decide to do any of those things, there is a great chance that any family that you had, any friends that you had will shun you. If you have been disfellowshipped, of course you will be shunned. Nobody will talk to you unless you go back into that organization. If you're being branded apostate, you definitely will be shunned. You will lose your family, your friends, any friends that you've ever known. And if you just...
And one thing I would like to add is when they talk about apostates, let me show you how brain dead they are, how dense, how, I don't know, brain dead. Because when you look at what is an apostate, it's someone who has changed their political belief or someone who has changed their religious belief. Now, how many people have come from being a Catholic, a Baptist, a Protestant, or whatever, and came into Jehovah's Witness? They changed their religious belief and came into this organization. Would that not be apostates? But they have no problem hanging out with them, associating with them. This is how brainwashed that they got these people so. I don't even like to be insulting to say stupid, but it is what it is. That's stupid. You don't take time to think about, wow, all these people, they came from a different religion. Yeah, these are apostates right here. You don't get that? What's up? What's going on? Are you on drugs? Are you your mind is soaked in alcohol? You have some kind of brain damage or something's going on? Because I don't understand that. How don't you get that?
Fade away, you have a better chance at being able to talk to people. They will have limited contact with you. So when you leave, it's not like you just have a clean slate and you still have the people that you've had your entire life. I was born in. I had friends that I classify as family, people who I thought were my sisters, brothers, and none of them talked to me.
Mm-hmm.
That is probably one of the hardest things a person can go through, especially when you have been born in and that's all you know. It's very, very heartbreaking, and it's very, very hard to have to start your whole life over again.
It's true. It's
To
true.
have to
I hear
start
you.
your
It's true. Like I know for a fact that my daughter, she doesn't want her kids to get out of this cult because she's afraid for them. And understandably so. Because when she was disfellowship too, my son too, and when they went out into this world, they got hurt. And the reason why, listen to me when I tell you, please, please, because they were disobedient to their parents. And you know why they got hurt and almost chewed up alive? Because they took that Bible and they threw it out the window somewhere. And they also refused to listen to Jehovah Jesus. And trust me when I tell you, they didn't listen to their parent, their mother. Because I kept telling them, look, when you deal with people, make sure that they are on Jehovah God or Jesus Christ team. They don't have to be Jehovah's Witnesses. They have to be people who have respect for God. And when she went out there and started dating these different no good bastards, and they gave her PTSD. My daughter, PTSD like you have never seen. Now she's terrified to leave this order. She's so terrified, the PTSD got her. And where did that come from? My son also. Traumatized too. Don't sit up here and play the blame game when it comes to your parents. You chose not to listen to your parent. Because I already told you, leave these satanic people alone. Find yourself people who are going to church, people who are reading their Bible, people who you could talk spiritual things with. Go to the movies with those type of people. They chose not to listen, and they almost got eaten alive. Believe that. You can't blame me. The Bible tells you to listen to your parents. It don't say do what your parents do or follow the parents' example or what. No, it tells you repeatedly. Listen, obey your parents. And when you choose not to, things don't go well for you. Now, does it?
whole entire life over again. You have to make new friends. You have to basically adapt to a world that you were told you weren't
That's a little
that you were
dog.
told you weren't supposed to be a part of. So it is definitely really, really hard. And that actually is one of the main components of why it would make it a cult. So the 8 men that are in New York, they pretty much call the shots. You do have to make sure that you pretty much just do what they want.
That's right.
And it's their interpretation of what the scriptures are. A lot of their interpretations of what the Bible says and what the scriptures are wrong. She is. You really doing this right now?
That's a little dog.
So
Cute.
Excuse me.
Oh my goodness.
So, um, so, it really is. I mean, no, chill.
Relax, little dog. Look at him. That is a cute dog. Oh my God.
So,
Look at the cutesy.
you do have to go by their interpretation of the scriptures. If you don't, you can be kicked out, which means you lose all your family, all your friends.
Yep. And upon that note, I'm going to put a stop to it. You can finish listening to her beautiful testimony. And I'm telling you, it's happening all over the world. It's happening constantly. And it's the reason why I make these videos, so that other people don't have to go through what so many of us have gone through and continue to go through. And if any of these so-called Jehovah Witnesses have a good heart, they would be away from this organization, and they will be also making videos like these to help give people support. But anyway, this is a closer look at Jehovah's Witnesses inside their world, part 3. I'm going to continue because, like I said, I'm not feeling well today. So I'm taking the little energy that I do have to hopefully benefit others. You know, I'm at home. I have a sore throat. I'm tired. And I love you. And that's why I do what I do. This is Sheila True Love, truly loving you always. You always have a choice. Please choose wisely. And I will see you on the other side. Bye for now, my darling.